The small, quiet town of Brooksville had always been known for its peaceful atmosphere and close-knit community. However, this calm facade began to crumble when a series of mysterious disappearances started to plague the town. Over the past few months, several residents had vanished without a trace, leaving behind only unanswered questions and a growing sense of fear among the townspeople. The local police were baffled. Despite their best efforts, they were unable to uncover any solid leads or identify a pattern in the disappearances. Frustration mounted as each day passed without any significant progress. The once thriving town now felt like a shadow of its former self, with anxiety and suspicion hanging heavy in the air. In a desperate move, the town's mayor decided to call in outside help. Detective John Bailey, known for his impressive track record in solving complex cases, was summoned from the neighboring city. Bailey was a seasoned investigator with a reputation for being both meticulous and unyielding. His arrival in Brooksville was met with a mix of hope and apprehension from the residents. Bailey's first day in town was filled with meetings and briefings. He quickly learned about the series of disappearances and the lack of evidence that had stymied the local police. The detective reviewed case files, interviewed officers, and began to formulate his strategy for unraveling the mystery. One of the first people Bailey interviewed was David Carter, the town's wealthy and influential businessman. Carter was known for his philanthropic efforts and his close connections with local officials. His calm demeanor and polished appearance seemed at odds with the gravity of the situation, which piqued Bailey's interest. Carter spoke about the disappearances with a veneer of concern but appeared almost too composed for someone whose town was in turmoil. "Detective Bailey, I assure you that we are all deeply troubled by these events," Carter said during their meeting. "I have been actively involved in supporting the families of the missing and assisting the police in any way possible." Bailey listened intently, noting Carter's every word and gesture. There was something about Carter's aloofness that didn't sit right with the detective. He couldn't help but wonder if the businessman was hiding something or if his calmness was a facade to mask deeper involvement. As Bailey continued his investigation, another key figure emerged, Elizabeth Moore, a reclusive woman who had recently moved to Brooksville. Elizabeth had been living on the outskirts of town and had little contact with the community. However, she came forward with a startling claim. She had seen something crucial on the night one of the missing individuals disappeared. Elizabeth was visibly shaken when she spoke with Bailey. Her fear was palpable, and she seemed hesitant to divulge too much information. Despite her reluctance, she described seeing a shadowy figure near the area where the person had last been seen. Her description was vague but hinted at a possible lead. Bailey noted Elizabeth's anxiety and the urgency in her voice. He couldn't ignore the possibility that her account might hold the key to unraveling the mystery. However, her fear suggested that she might be hiding something or that her testimony could be part of a larger, more sinister plot. The detective's investigation was just beginning, and he knew that uncovering the truth would require more than just sifting through evidence. He needed to delve into the town's secrets, explore the connections between its residents, and confront the possibility that someone close to the community might be orchestrating these disappearances. As Bailey set out to piece together the puzzle, the atmosphere in Brooksville grew increasingly tense. The fear that had once lurked beneath the surface now dominated every interaction and conversation. With each passing day, the pressure mounted for Bailey to crack the case and bring the missing individuals back to their families. The town's once unshakable sense of security was gone, replaced by a palpable sense of dread. The residents of Brooksville awaited answers, hoping that Detective John Bailey could restore peace and uncover the dark truths hidden within their seemingly serene town. Detective John Bailey's first week in Brooksville was a whirlwind of interviews and investigations. His initial assessment of the town's atmosphere and its key figures was eye-opening. The sense of fear among the residents was palpable, but the more Bailey dug into the case, the more he realized that the truth was obscured by layers of deceit. One evening, Bailey decided to revisit David Carter, the town's prominent businessman. Despite Carter's outward show of cooperation, Bailey was increasingly convinced that he might be hiding something significant. Carter's connections to various local figures and his wealth afforded him a level of influence that was hard to ignore. The detective believed that Carter's pristine image might be a carefully crafted facade. During their second meeting, Bailey pushed Carter for more detailed information about his activities and associations. "Mr. Carter, I've been reviewing the case files and talking to various people in town. It seems like you've been very involved in assisting with the investigation," Bailey said, watching Carter closely. Carter responded smoothly, "Of course, detective. It's only natural that I help in any way I can. These are troubling times for Brooksville, and we all need to pull together." Despite Carter's polished responses, Bailey couldn't shake the feeling that there was more beneath the surface. His suspicions were further fueled by the lack of any substantial evidence linking Carter to the disappearances, which seemed too convenient. Carter's aloofness and the way he skirted around certain questions only deepened Bailey's mistrust. Meanwhile, Elizabeth Moore, the mysterious witness, was becoming more forthcoming. She had begun to trust Bailey, largely because of his persistence and genuine concern for her safety. During their conversations, Elizabeth revealed more about her past and her reasons for moving to Brooksville. It turned out that she had a history of involvement with individuals who were not above the law, but she insisted that she was trying to start anew. Elizabeth's story was troubling. She had previously been linked to a group involved in various illegal activities, and her presence in Brooksville seemed too coincidental. Despite this, Bailey sensed that Elizabeth was not directly involved in the disappearances, but rather a potential victim or an unwilling observer of something much larger. Bailey delved deeper into Elizabeth's background and discovered that she had been trying to distance herself from her past associations. Her reluctance to speak fully about her knowledge was likely due to her fear of retaliation from those she had left behind. Yet, her testimonies about the shadowy figure she saw and her descriptions of the night in question added valuable clues to the case. As Bailey continued his investigation, he began to uncover a pattern of financial irregularities linked to David Carter. The businessman's philanthropic efforts, which he had often flaunted, were being used as a cover for illicit activities. Bailey found discrepancies in Carter's donations and investments, leading him to believe that Carter was involved in money laundering or other criminal schemes. With this new lead, Bailey worked to connect the dots between Carter's financial dealings and the disappearances. He interviewed several of Carter's associates and discovered that some of them had troubling connections to organized crime. The more Bailey learned, the more he began to suspect that Carter's involvement in the disappearances might be a strategic move to cover up his other illegal activities. Elizabeth's fear grew more intense as Bailey uncovered these connections. She started receiving threatening messages, further cementing her role as a key witness in the case. Despite the danger, she continued to cooperate with Bailey, providing him with critical information about Carter's activities and possible motives. The tension in Brooksville was rising. The townspeople were increasingly anxious, and rumors about Carter's involvement in the disappearances began to spread. Bailey knew that he needed to act quickly to prevent further panic and to bring the truth to light. As he worked tirelessly to piece together the evidence, he remained focused on uncovering the web of lies that had ensnared Brooksville. The detective's determination to solve the case and the increasing danger faced by Elizabeth set the stage for a dramatic confrontation. The town's facade of peace was crumbling, revealing the dark underbelly of deceit and corruption that Bailey was determined to expose. As Detective John Bailey delved deeper into David Carter's affairs, he began to piece together a disturbing picture of organized crime and corruption that stretched far beyond the town of Brooksville. Bailey's investigation revealed a complex web of deceit, with Carter at its center. The businessman's public persona as a generous philanthropist now seemed like a well-crafted facade to conceal his illegal activities. Bailey's breakthrough came when he traced a series of financial transactions linked to Carter's businesses. These transactions were disguised as charitable donations and investments, but led to accounts in offshore banks known for their involvement in money laundering. The detective discovered that Carter was using his wealth and influence to launder money from various criminal enterprises. This revelation was crucial, as it suggested that the disappearances might be part of a larger scheme to protect Carter's illicit operations. To confirm his suspicions, Bailey sought out additional evidence from Carter's associates. Through interviews and surveillance, Bailey identified several key individuals who had connections to organized crime. One of these associates, a man named Victor Santini, had a reputation for violent enforcement of criminal interests. Bailey's sources revealed that Santini had been seen in town around the times of the disappearances, adding a dangerous dimension to the case. The pressure was mounting. Elizabeth Moore, who had been providing crucial information to Bailey, was becoming increasingly anxious. The threats against her had escalated, and she had begun to fear for her life. Despite the danger, Elizabeth remained determined to help Bailey uncover the truth. She revealed that she had witnessed Santini and Carter meeting on several occasions, further linking the businessman to the organized crime network. Bailey's investigation into Santini's activities led him to a hidden network of safe houses and illegal operations. With the help of local law enforcement, he conducted a series of raids on these locations, uncovering evidence of human trafficking and drug smuggling. The evidence pointed to a larger criminal syndicate that had been using Brooksville as a cover for their operations. It became clear that the disappearances were not random but were intended to silence individuals who might expose Carter's criminal activities. Elizabeth's role in the investigation was becoming increasingly perilous. She had information that could potentially dismantle the entire criminal network, making her a target for elimination. To protect her, Bailey arranged for her to be placed under police protection. Despite this, Elizabeth remained on edge, knowing that the criminals she had crossed were ruthless and capable of anything. As Bailey continued to connect the dots, he realized that Carter's involvement in the disappearances was more than just a means to protect his criminal empire. It was a deliberate attempt to eliminate potential witnesses and ensure that his illegal activities remained hidden. Carter's calculated moves were designed to create confusion and misdirection, allowing him to operate with impunity. The detective's investigation also revealed that Carter had been using his influence to manipulate public opinion and sway local authorities. He had carefully crafted a narrative that portrayed himself as a victim of a malicious conspiracy, further complicating the case. This manipulation had contributed to the town's confusion and fear, making it difficult for anyone to see the truth behind the disappearances. With the evidence mounting against Carter and Santini, Bailey knew that time was of the essence. He needed to gather enough proof to make a strong case against them before they could flee or destroy further evidence. The detective also had to contend with the growing threat to Elizabeth's safety, ensuring that she remained protected while he pursued the criminals responsible for the town's suffering. The tension in Brooksville reached its peak as Bailey prepared for a decisive confrontation. The web of lies and deceit spun by Carter and his associates was beginning to unravel, but the danger was far from over. Bailey's commitment to solving the case and bringing justice to the town's residents drove him forward, even as the threats against him and his key witness grew more intense. With the pieces of the puzzle falling into place, Bailey knew that the final stages of the investigation would be the most critical. The fight to expose the hidden enemy and restore peace to Brooksville was reaching its climax, and the outcome would determine the town's fate and the future of those involved. The climax of Detective John Bailey's investigation was approaching, and the stakes had never been higher. With a growing body of evidence linking David Carter to a web of organized crime and corruption, Bailey knew that the time had come to bring the criminal enterprise to justice. The town of Brooksville was on edge, anxiously awaiting any news that might bring relief from the fear that had gripped them for so long. Bailey orchestrated a meticulous plan to expose Carter and his criminal network. With the evidence he had gathered, including financial records, witness statements, and surveillance footage, Bailey prepared to make a case that would dismantle Carter's empire and end the reign of terror that had plagued the town. The detective coordinated with local law enforcement to ensure a synchronized effort in making arrests and securing evidence. Elizabeth Moore, who had played a crucial role in uncovering the truth, remained under police protection. Despite the increased security, she continued to face threats from Carter's associates, who were desperate to prevent her from testifying. Her bravery and cooperation had been instrumental in exposing the network's operations, but the danger she faced was a constant reminder of the high price of her involvement. On the day of the planned arrests, Bailey and his team moved swiftly. They executed raids on Carter's properties and safe houses associated with his criminal activities. The operations were carefully coordinated to avoid any slip-ups that might give Carter a chance to escape. As law enforcement agents swept through the locations, they discovered a trove of incriminating evidence, including documents detailing the illegal transactions and recordings of Carter's meetings with organized crime figures. David Carter, who had been trying to stay one step ahead of the investigation, was caught off guard by the scale and precision of the operation. He was arrested at one of his estates, where he had been attempting to flee. The arrest was dramatic, as Carter, once so confident in his power and influence, was now facing the full force of the law. The evidence against him was overwhelming, and the charges ranged from money laundering and fraud to more serious allegations linked to the disappearances. The arrests of Carter and his key associates, including Victor Santini, marked a significant victory in the fight against the criminal network. The town of Brooksville began to breathe a sigh of relief as the fear and uncertainty that had plagued them for months started to dissipate. With Carter and his accomplices in custody, the community began to heal, and the truth behind the disappearances was finally brought to light. Elizabeth's bravery did not go unnoticed. Her testimony was pivotal in securing convictions against Carter and the other members of the criminal syndicate. Although she continued to face challenges, her role in the investigation was widely recognized, and she was hailed as a hero for her courage in standing up against a powerful and dangerous network. Bailey's successful resolution of the case brought closure to the families of the missing individuals. The detectives' dedication and skill had not only exposed the criminal activities but had also restored a sense of justice and safety to Brooksville. The investigation had been a testament to his relentless pursuit of the truth, and his efforts were celebrated by the grateful residents of the town. In the aftermath of the case, Bailey reflected on the challenges and triumphs of the investigation. The experience had reaffirmed his commitment to justice and his belief in the importance of uncovering hidden truths, no matter how deeply they were buried. For Elizabeth, the resolution of the case marked the beginning of a new chapter in her life, free from the shadows of her past. As Brooksville slowly returned to its normal life, the scars of the ordeal remained. The town would not forget the fear and uncertainty that had once gripped them, but the resolve of its people and the determination of Detective Bailey had ensured that justice was served. The town's recovery was a testament to the strength of its community and the power of uncovering the truth. The final revelation of Carter's crimes and the dismantling of his criminal network marked a significant achievement for Bailey and a moment of redemption for Brooksville. The detectives' work had not only brought an end to a reign of terror but had also reinforced the belief that even the most intricate webs of deceit could be unraveled with perseverance and integrity.